now.
Okay, so if I start with the three layers, all right, so the cortex, I'm sorry, the capsule, the cortex, and the medulla. Renal cortex, renal capsule, renal medulla. Typically, if I ask it, the renal capsule, I would just stick my probe in the outside of the kidney and say, what layer is this probe sticking through first? And it's sticking through what would be the renal capsule. Mm-hmm. Then if I were to take my probe and illustrate the cortex, I would just stick it in here. The renal cortex is any of this layer right here. Okay, that's all cortex, and it's distinguishable from the medulla, from the lighter color. So you can see it clearly in any of these. So anywhere in here I was to stick my probe, if the question is, what layer is that? Renal cortex. Now the next layer is the medulla, and the medulla, consists of the pyramids and the columns. So, and the way we were working at it over here a minute ago with Julie and Mandy is the layer here would be from the bottom tip of the pyramids to the base of the pyramids. So if you run your probe all the way around, all of that is renal medulla. And so the medulla consists of the pyramids, and then in between the pyramids you have renal columns. Sometimes the renal columns are more obvious than other times. Here it doesn't look like it goes all the way through. But remember, we're only seeing one plane, and this is coming from 3 dimensions. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, one of the features, or two of the features of the columns, is that they are typically white because they're lined by the same membrane as we find in the capsule area. And they have a interlobar artery and an interlobar vein. In this case, we can see the interlobar vein here. The blue here is interlobar vein. That little bit of red right there would be interlobar artery. So if I were to stick my probe here and say what layer, renal medulla. The question could say what structure, renal pyramid. Okay. Here I could say what layer, medulla, or what structure, column, or what blood vessel, what blue color blood vessel, interlobar vein. Now, the pyramids have an area, the papilla, the renal papilla, that we often refer to kind of as a region, the pointy end there. If I stick my probe down in that area and say, what specific area of that structure is it? Renal papilla. Okay? Or papillary region. As long as it says papilla or papillary, you're going to get it right. Okay? Now, remember, the nephrons are both in the cortex region and in the pyramids, but they are not in the columns. Therefore, the urine is dripping out the bottom of the pyramids, out of the papilla region. So underneath it, you have to have part of that urine collecting sac that's going to collect the actual urine, and that's the minor calyx portion. So if I stuck my probe in the sac right underneath, real close to the renal papilla, but clearly not in the papilla, but rather in the sac, then I'm pointing to a minor calyx. So here is another minor calyx. Here is another minor calyx area. Anytime I go underneath, and I'll try to get close just to reduce confusion, I would be pointing to a minor calyx. Here's another minor calyx. Okay. Now, typically minor calyxes kind of merge into a little larger area of the sac, and that larger area is the major calyx. So probably the best areas to reduce confusion are typically on the ends. So if we come down here and we look at this pyramid, 1, 2, over here there's 1 or 2 pyramids, maybe 3. But this minor calyx, the minor calyces coming from these pyramids over here, they're all kind of emptying into this general area of the sac. And so if I take my probe as much as toward the center of that area as I can, it's a major calyx. If I wish to ask for the renal pelvis, because the major calyces drain into the renal pelvis, then I need to come